Phantastic Feast. I'm your host, Thuy Phan. Today I will show you how to make a dish that I would say is the heralding of fall. It's a pumpkin loaf cake, and nothing says autumn like pumpkin. And I know around this time of the year, everything pumpkin drives people crazy, sometimes in a good way, and sometimes people are sick of pumpkin. But I personally like it, and I think this is a really good loaf cake that you can make that's really simple and also very delicious. When it's baking up, you smell all the spices, the ginger, the cloves, the nutmeg, and it just makes you feel like really cozy and comfy. So I'll show you how to do that. For this pumpkin bread, what you will need is 1 can of pumpkin, pureed pumpkin. You can also use the fresh pumpkin, but this makes life a lot easier. You need 1 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. You need 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar. You need 1/2 cup of oil, vegetable, or you can use melted coconut oil. You need 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. You will also need 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I have here a mixture of 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg and then 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, and also a sprinkle of ground ginger. This will give it a really nice aromatic flavor that's indicative of a really nice flavorful pumpkin bread. And then I have 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I have 1/4 cup of milk, but you can also use 1/4 cup of orange juice. This gives it a lot of moisture so that it's a very moist bread. I have 2 large eggs here, and then also 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So this is all the ingredients that it takes, and you don't need a special stand mixer or anything. It's pretty simple. So what we'll do first is we'll combine all the dry ingredients, and then we'll work it together with our wet ingredients. So take our flour and our flour. We'll add here our cinnamon. This is our nutmeg and cloves and ginger mixture. You can also use pumpkin pie spice, but I find that it's a little bit more intense flavors when you actually do it yourself and mix it together. And I have here the teaspoon of baking soda. Then our salt. I'm just going to give that a light whisk. Okay, we set that aside. And then in another bowl, we'll add wet ingredients. With the oil. Pepper eggs. Alright, here our milk. Almost too easy. Here's our sugar. Here's our sugar. Now we'll open our pumpkin puree. dry ingredients to our wet puree. And this is something that's also very good with tea or coffee. And of course I see this at the coffee shops all the time, but you can see how ridiculously easy it is to make at home. No preservatives or anything, so it's nice and fresh. And while this is baking, you could go and do something else. So I love those types of baked concoctions. That's it. It's still going to be a little bit lumpy, and that's totally fine. You don't want to overmix it. That's your batter. Now this batter, you could also add chocolate chips to it. You can add nuts like walnuts or a variation if you like that. I'm just going to keep it plain. What I'll do now is I'll take our loaf pan and spray it with some nonstick spray, and then we'll put it in the oven at 350 degrees and wait about an hour, and then we'll have some delicious pumpkin bread. I'm just going to spray it. That's it. That's your pumpkin bread. We'll put it in the oven for about 60 minutes, 75, depending on how long it takes, and you can do the toothpick test as always. And so while this is baking, I'll show you how to make some caramel apples. So let's put this in the oven. So while our pumpkin bread is baking, we have about an hour. So during that time, I'll show you how to make another real fall festive dessert that I think is really fun to do with your kids and so forth. It's caramel apples, and who doesn't love a caramel apple that you see in the store covered with nuts or sprinkles or with coconut? Well, you could do it at home, and I'll show you how to do it. What you need for this is some Granny Smith apples. You can use any type of apple really, but I think the Granny Smith apples are the best to use only because they are so sour. So then they are a nice complement to the sweetness of the caramel. So it's kind of a nice contrast, but it's up to you. You can use red apples, you can use any other type of apple you like. I'm using a lot of really small ones because I hardly ever finished a whole big one, so I like to use smaller ones so it's like kind of like a one bite thing. I have some sweetened coconut flakes here as a topping. You can use sprinkles, anything you want. I also have some toasted peanuts and also some toasted cashews that I will chop up and do that first so that we have our toppings ready. For the caramel, what you need is 1 1/3 cup of sugar. You also need 1 cup of heavy cream. If you like it really chewy, you can reduce that to a little bit less cream so the consistency is a little bit thicker, but you can decide. You also need 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. And with this, you also need 1/2 cup of water. And you need some popsicle sticks to insert into the apples. I have already roasted some peanuts and some cashews, and we'll just chop it up so that we have these as an option. Fresh roasted peanuts are just so good. Of course, you can buy the ones that are already pre-roasted, but I prefer doing it myself. And to roast it yourself, all you need to do is put it in the oven at 300 degrees for about 15 minutes, and then it is ready. Caramel apples make really nice gifts as well. You've seen them at those confectioner shops, and you can make it yourself though, so control the ingredients and what you like to have on top. Okay, that should be pretty good. Now our cashews. You could do almonds if you like almonds. Time just goes by so fast. We have Halloween coming up, and then before you know it, it'll be Thanksgiving and then Christmas. And then the year's over, and then we start all over again. So this kind of is a nice way to just kind of stop and enjoy a little bit of the autumn, what it has to offer. Nothing speaks to fall, I think, like pumpkin and apples and spices. Pretty good. Cashews. Your apples, you want to make sure that they are washed, and also the apples need to be cold so that when the caramel is dipped into it, it hardens faster because of the temperature of the apples. What you want to do is remove this stem here. And our popsicles will go there. These are so cute. And if there's wax on your apples, you can remove that by boiling hot water with a little bit of vinegar and dipping them in there really quickly. And then remove the layer of wax on there. Growing up, I used to eat at least one of these green apples a day. My mom would just always have a whole bin full of apples for all of us kids to just eat when we get home. So this is kind of a nostalgic kind of treat. And so whenever people ask me why I'm so tall, I always say it's because of the apples. So these are popsicle sticks that you can get at the craft store, at the dollar store. You can find them pretty easily. So they just make it a little bit easier. So what you want to do is just insert it here. Okay, so then you have your apple on a stick, and you want to do that for all of these. And I have it on a parchment-lined baking tray. Okay. So later when we dip, it'll be and you don't want to skewer them all the way through, but enough so that they can hold it. Okay, so these are all ready and the popsicle sticks are in. What you want to do is return it to the fridge while we make up the caramel. So I'll put this back in the fridge and then we'll take it over to the oven and we'll start making the caramel coating. So